What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I want to break down what's going on with the Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for as time progresses, and also what's happening with some very important pieces of data, which are going to be giving us more information about what the market is doing. But before I break anything down all this information, before I talk about what's going on with Tesla stock, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. So anyways, let's break down what's going on with Tesla in the market. Looking at Tesla's thing is actually kind of flat right now. In my video from earlier, I said that you're going to be watching this 252 area. If we lost 252, watch 250 as support. If that failed us, there's going to be 247. That's very close to where Tesla ended up bouncing, and now it's just kind of shuffling very close to 250. So Tesla is trading flat. We're going to likely close very close to this area, not really doing a whole lot for the final hour of the day. But today is a very, very interesting day, and it's actually a very significant time right now because this was the last trading day of 2023, and we're approaching the final hour of trading during the open market hours for 2023 as well. So as a reminder, guys, the market's going to be closed for the weekend, and then there's going to be no trading on Monday, January 1st for the new year. It's going to be another holiday. And then for Tuesday, January 2nd, the market's going to open. Then we have more data coming out. But I just want to note that today when the data came out, the Chicago PMI was below expectations. This contributed to why the market ended up selling off the way it did. There's more PMI data coming out on Tuesday, so we'll be watching for that very carefully. And also some announcements that could be coming out from some Fed speakers. But besides that, guys, I just wanted to make it clear that, it's been a pleasure making these videos. I'm going to continue to make these videos as well. This is going to be my last intraday video for 2023, technically, since this is the last hour of trading, and the next time I release a video is going to be after market close. So it's been a pleasure, guys. I'm very, very happy to do what I do, and it's been absolutely incredible to be a part of this journey. Now, when it comes to the market, there are two things I just want to mention. First off, when it comes to SPY, please note that we have just very close to about 900,000 calls expiring today, and we have about just under 1.8 million puts expiring today. So there's a 1.97 puts to call ratio. Max pain's at 472. The majority positions right now are in the puts, which is part of why I think the market's trying to hold up. And this is what I warned you guys about earlier. I said the market may hold up a bit today, and then we might see more selling going into January of 2024. And I still hold to that view. That's what I think is going to happen. But for Tesla, just as a reminder, Tesla is going to be a very different story for the whole market because Tesla is going to be reacting to their deliveries. We have deliveries coming out. I believe it's coming out on January 1st. This is going to be very significant. We'll be watching to see what happens with their numbers. But I'm going to double check to make sure that it's actually on January 1st. It should be either the 1st or the 2nd. I think it's the 1st. When the numbers come out for their yearly deliveries, for their Q4 deliveries, this is going to be huge for Tesla. We're going to be looking for a much larger move. We're going to be looking for some high volatility, and that's going to have a much bigger effect on what Tesla ends up doing. So for now, Tesla is very chill. It's not really doing anything too insane, and we're just going to be looking for the big reaction going into next week. So what do I see for Tesla? It's very simple, guys. We have tight resistance at 252. We have support at 250 and also 247. So we have key supports. Those are the main levels. You could obviously go into more detail if you zoom in. So for instance, if I go into the 5 minutes time frame, you can actually see we have support at the 50 and the 20 EMAs right over here at this 250.2 and 250.1 area. It's kind of just stuck right now. So what is Tesla going to do? I think it's just going to trade flat for the rest of the day. We have less than an hour left. It's not going to do much. And then we're going to see a much bigger move going into next week, depending on delivery. So we're going to see Tesla gap up and push very high into the 260s or 270s, or we could see Tesla gap down and tank all the way back down to 230. It all depends on deliveries. But I can tell you something else. So although Tesla is going to be moving on its own, SPY and the QQQ, in my opinion, are primed for some bearish momentum going into next week, if not by the next 2 weeks. But for now, I just want to call out exactly why that is. So I mentioned to everyone that we had this bearish divergence on the 4-hour time frame and also these other time frames, and they're starting to play out a bit. We also had a very important rising wedge on SPY. I mentioned to you all that the fear and greed index was at extreme greed, and that's when the market tends to top. Not to mention the fact that the options chain is what suggests the market could try to hold up for some time before we see some downside later on. So SPY is trying to push up right now. It's actually approaching our 30 minutes. I think it's very close to this resistance right here. We have 475.6 as resistance at the 20 EMA. Then we have 476 above that at the 50 EMA, both on the 30 minutes time frames. Those are some resistance levels on SPY. If we break 476, you're going to be watching for technically we have 476.8 as resistance. For support, if there's a rejection, watch 475 very, very carefully. Technically, that is one of our main supports. Below that, we have 474, 473.8, 473.3, followed by 472. What do I think SPY is doing? Well, I think it's just going to kind of be stuck right now, starting to reject off these EMAs, but it's just going to trade sideways, be range bound for the rest of the day. I don't think anything too crazy is going to happen unless we end up breaking below the 200 EMA on the 30 minutes time frame. But I think it's just going to trade within this range, the range we've seen from the morning. And it's going to be stuck very, very close to where we are right now because of all the options expiring. But going into next week, I predict there's going to be more downside, most likely for next week, if not within 2 weeks. I think we're going to see SPY start retracing to 472, then 470 as time goes on. So I still anticipate downside, guys. I think SPY is going to get a rug pull going into the next few weeks. I expect a January pullback because the market's due for that, and we had many signals that suggested that. I think the QQQ is going to follow the same trend. Basically, we had this rising wedge. I was talking about 408s being tested soon. I was thinking possibly for like very early next year, like in next week it would get there, but it actually went up as low to that level like today. So it's a little bit quicker than expected, but it's completely okay. Now we're seeing buyers defending, but you can see that it's kind of rejecting off this 410 resistance, coming back down, and now we have these levels to watch for. So we have 410 as resistance. We break above that. It's 411.4. And if we break that, there's 412. Those are going to be our resistance levels. For support, you're going to be watching 409, 408, 407.5, followed by this 406 to 405.7 area. In my opinion, the QQQ is looking bearish. It looks like it's making lower highs and lower lows. Could this rebound again going into next week? Sure, but I think ultimately it's going to come back down to 408 or even break below that to 405.7. I anticipate some more downside on it, just like how I did for SPY. Nvda is showing life. Nvda is actually holding up decently because here's what happened. Nvidia basically got this false break. It got bought right back into its wedge. Very crazy stuff. And still technically trying to hold up. But I warned you all to watch for a top near 498 to 500. And you can see Nvidia is kind of struggling to break above 500. Now, could it try to break it going into next week? It could attempt to do so. But ultimately, I don't see it pumping much more from here. The last time it hit 504, we got this big rejection, also around 500. So I think that it's going to top very soon. We're going to see a rejection, and we're going to see it actually officially get a break, not like a false break, but a real break from the rising wedge. I'm going to be looking for 495 to be tested, and below that we have 492 and 490. So do I anticipate downside? The answer is yes. I think going into within the next 2 weeks, we're going to see some more downside. I think it's very probable looking at the current trend. However, just to be safe, make sure you watch support, especially at 495. If we hold that, we're not going to be ready yet. If we break that, then you're going to be looking for 492, 490, then 488. I also had these levels, right, drawn out previously, and notice how well it actually respected these levels. So it's respecting this wedge very well. Once we broke 495, it came down to 490. Then we had 488, almost exactly where this thing bounced. So these levels are working very well, as you can see. It came back into this resistance, still trying to hold up, and hopefully you guys found value in looking at those levels. Aapl is the epitome of how well these levels could work. And let me just show you what I'm talking about. I never touch these levels. I just draw them out from what I'm seeing in supply and demand, and I just kept them like that. And my warning ended up being very important because on Aapl, let me show you something. I told you all we had this range. We had these two yellow lines. I said this is our range. If we broke 194.4, we could turn bullish and watch for a break towards 195. But we also had support at 193.5. We were stuck within support and resistance, supply and demand, right? We broke below 193.5 today. This is part of why the market also broke down. And our support would have been 192.5. We broke that to the next level around 192, very close to that. We saw Aapl break just a little bit below this, dropped to like 20 cents below it, then came right back up. Then it started testing 192.5 as resistance. Now it's just barely trying to climb back up. But overall, guys, you could see how well these levels are actually working for Aapl, right? It actually respected them very, very closely. And this could be very, very helpful for people who are interested in looking at both sides and just learning supply and demand. I found this to be a really, really good way to just teach and just show people about what stocks can do. I think that one of the most important things to do is just chart and always know your levels, always know where supply and demand is. And that's going to be very helpful if you're ever trying to day trade. There are other indicators you could use, such as your momentum indicators and such, right? I use those as well on my other charts, but to make it all simple, I have like just on TradingView, I just use like some trend lines and then also just like these support zones and etc. Just to make everything much more simple to understand, and you're gonna really see how this panned out. So, with that being said, Apple's looking kind of weak. We're gonna shuffle very close to this 192 range, 192.5. I think that's what's gonna do for the rest of the day, and then we'll be looking for more volatility for next week. We could see this thing break a little bit lower. It's still not looking that strong to me. It attempted to break out and ended up failing. So that being said, thank you all so much for listening. This is my final intraday update video for 2023. The next time you hear from me, it's going to be during the after hours, during market close, and then you're going to be hearing more from me during the weekend, going into 2024, and etc. Nothing in my schedule is going to be changing. I just want to provide you guys with as much value as possible. So take care, guys. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Do what you have to do and watch your levels very, very closely. Remain calm, cool, and collected. Thank you all so much for listening once again, and peace out.